documentary seeks to highlight the ways in which gender socialization influences the behavior of men in relation to the Triad of Violence in the Caribbean. These three stories highlighted in this film are testimonies of three individuals who have witnessed the Triad of Violence in action. Before this, however, we must understand the two Triad of Violence and gender socialization. The Triad of Violence refers to the concept of men displaying violence towards themselves, towards other men, and towards women. According to Herbert Marcuse, violence is due to what he called the surplus repression of our sexual and emotional desires. This is where we choose violence as an outlet for expressing our desires. While it cannot be said whether or not violence has biological roots, it can be said that violence is influenced by our social context.
Simply put, gender socialization can be defined as the ways in which boys and girls are shaped by social and cultural elements into becoming men and women. According to UNICEF, gender socialization is the process in which people learn to behave a certain way, as dictated by societal beliefs, values, attitudes, and example. Based on a study River Breeze done by Barry Shavanis in 2001, it was understood that boys are usually tasked with more outdoor chores, for example, taking out the trash, whereas girls, they are given more indoor chores like cooking and cleaning. Boys, they usually tend to have a lot more freedom in comparison to girls. It is through this division of chores and freedom that we understand boys are socialized to be the dominant figure of the family, the breadwinner, whereas women, they maintain their roles as housewives. There are various institutions of socialization, and this would include the education system, the media, peers, religion, and the community. According to Michael Kaufman, he stated that through socialization, years before they would be able to speak about it, children understand that their mother is inferior to their father and that women are inferior to men.
As a child, I found it amazing that my father never cried. He was never scared. He was never embarrassed. But he was abusive. And not just towards others, but towards himself. My father was an alcoholic, and he drank to solve his problems. Things would get so bad that he would start yelling, saying the most hateful things about himself. I remember once, we had to rush him to the hospital. He had gotten alcohol poisoning. And I didn't know it then, but this was just his way of expressing himself.
Men are socialized to believe that showing emotions is a sign of a weakness, and so they are taught that they mustn't cry or they mustn't show that they are afraid or in pain. This is reinforced by the Caribbean society, as those who show any kind of feelings or emotions are regarded as either weak or feminine. Michael Kaufman stated that violence to oneself refers to the formation of an ego and an edifice of surplus aggression and repression, which leads to the precarious structure of internalized violence. He posited that to be a man means you must constantly block out and deny all feelings and emotions associated with passivity. These feelings include those of pain, fear, sadness, and embarrassment. It is very much important that men express these emotions, as when they're ignored, even if you're not consciously aware of them, they may build up and eventually transform into rage and hostility.
I was young and unaware of what was taking place at the time. All I knew back then was that it wasn't good. Knowing what I know now though, he was abusive mentally, emotionally, and physically, simply because she was able to attain a higher education level than he was. She was also bringing in more income into the household, and to top it off, he was afraid of the fact that she had more male friends.
Men violence against women is very much prevalent in the Caribbean, and this can be done socially, politically, economically, physically, and psychologically. This form of violence has often been highlighted as a dynamic affirmation that can only exist as distinguished from femininity. Michael Kaufman stated that men constantly need affirmation as they face feelings of powerlessness, fragility, artificiality, and the precariousness of masculinity. Jason Katz, in a TED Talk, noted that the problems of men violence against women is usually seen as a woman issue, when in actuality it is a man's issue. And since it is referred to as woman issues, it allows men to ignore the actual issues since they are not part of the conversation.
I remember being in Standard 5 and being homophobic because back then I was already socialized into believing that being gay was wrong and that you were less of a man, or that you weren't even a man. We considered you a girl, and we needed to separate ourselves from these people that we consider gay. And so every day in school, we would be really violent towards them. We would be emotionally abusive, verbally, physically, and we would just try to ruin their life because to us, they weren't normal.
Male violence is still very active in society in the form of fighting, sports, rape, homophobia, and even politics. Kaufman states that most men have experienced some kind of violence in their lives, and early experience of violence can cause an incredible amount of anxiety. This anxiety then gives the fear that all men could be possible enemies, humiliators, competitors. Particularly in the Caribbean, male violence against male is often seen as homophobia, since masculinity is defined as complete heterosexuality and the repression of homosexuality. Michael Kaufman also stated that homophobia is socially constructed and it is essential for the imposition and maintenance of masculinity. The consistent denial of homosexual attraction is the most active form of homophobia, and this denial takes the form of violence against other men.